Certainly when you are putting any sort of training program into place, there ought to be some sort of measurement that you know ahead of time. Sometimes when it comes to training, it's as easy as maybe a pre-assessment and a post-assessment. Where is the individual employee in a particular skill or task completion performing? And then as a result of the training, what's the difference? In a post-assessment, what does it look like? Do we see an improvement? That's usually one of the simplest ways to do it. Certainly, in general, you would be looking at job performance overall. So as a result of learning this skill or these series of skills, how has that applied to the work? And do we see a change as a result of putting the kind of training curriculum or programs into place? Honestly, one of the best ways to judge as well is have that employee who's been trained train someone else. Watch them train another person, listen to them train another person. It doesn't mean you have to sit next to them, but is there some sort of format or recorded way to know that they are doing for someone else what has been done for them? If they can give away what they've been taught, there's a good chance that they've mastered it. Training and development are often interchanged, and it's not really fair to do so. Training usually is specific to a task development piece, and I know I just used the word development, but task specific. Maybe it is a particular process that's very narrow. Can we work on this one skill in a training environment where someone is tasked with doing perhaps a repetitive task or something that is kind of regular to the job, but it is very specific. Whereas development is a more holistic view. How do these series of tasks, the series of skill development that has occurred as a result of performing these tasks, how does that tell a bigger picture? Can the employee see the bigger picture? Usually I would say on the developmental end, you're looking at more critical application, a bit more complex in strategic thought, in critical thought. You would likely see this in interpersonal development, right? The ability to handle conflict better, the ability to communicate more effectively. Those things would be more developmental in nature rather than here's this one training program. We went from A to B and now you should be better at doing B. We know that's not going to work to just do one, say, communication training and think that's going to solve all the problems. It's usually a much more holistic approach, and that there's a lot of information and opportunity coming in to that person's development that takes a longer period of time. Well, certainly you want to start in health. And what I mean by that is start with what's working. Right? Don't necessarily start a developmental approach by saying, well, here's the 6 or 7 things you just are not doing well. Likely that's not going to sort of open the door for a developmental desire on the part of the employee. Rather, start with an assessment and say, here are the things that seem to be working well for you based on performance appraisals, performance feedback. Again, maybe you're doing some sort of separate or independent assessment work. And then, of course, you've also got to talk about what could be better. It's in those areas then you may want to focus as far as the employee's individual development. It may be that you want to put some things into place around mentoring. Maybe there is someone in the organization who is better at one or two of the areas that this particular employee's developmental plan would benefit from. And so that employee starts meeting with the mentor. We're not talking about, weeks on end, for hours on end. You really could be mentoring moments. It could be 30 minutes with a mentor every other week for a few months, a couple of months, where that person is giving away some strategies that he, she, or they has used. The mentor could be giving away perspective, life lessons, stories about failures and what has been learned. Those sort of things help to generate a conversation then between the employee being developed and the mentor, which will likely lead to a more robust developmental conversation. That's what you want. You want it to have meat, and you want there to be depth. It is more than just for today, right? Development should really be teaching people for a lifetime. And to get to hearts and minds, it's going to take that kind of committed timeline on behalf of the employer to make sure that that happens. You're going to reap the rewards of that kind of investment for sure. I'm John Baldino from Humoriso.